Thank you so much. Hello, hey! Well, thank you so much, guys, for sticking around. I know it's the last day, it's a Friday. I know you probably don't have quite the attention span, but I promise this will be entertaining, or at least I think I'm my own biggest fan anyway. So this is a mystery. So as you all know in this room, marketers often have to wear many hats. In this case, I wore the hat of a detective, hence the tie to get into the headspace here. And I want you guys to get in the headspace of like detective films, Humphrey Bogart, black and white, film grain. And this is the case of the missing positioning. Oh, I'm pointing at the wrong thing. Okie dokie. Wait, hang on a second. Huh?
No?
So that's... Oh, okay, perfect. All right, so my name is Najmah Salam. You can call me Naj. I'm currently freelancing. I like to call myself a marketing alchemist because I'm all about turning existing elements into marketing gold. I think that's what marketers do. And you'll see this philosophy in this presentation today. I've had about 15 years of experience in mass communications and marketing. Kind of had a bit of a quirky career, everything from online personalized gifts, e-commerce, to luxury archaeological travel, very niche. I worked at Help for Heroes, which is a non-profit in the UK. And most recently, I worked in a B2B SaaS company in learning technologies, and it was an AI-assisted solution. You might also know me from my data stuff, so I created a resource that you can automate your email reporting with Google Data Studio, now Looker Studio, I guess. I've made stickers, and most recently I've started branching out into YouTube stuff as well. So I make a web series called Email Breakdown. It's not where I have a breakdown about emails. That happens in my own personal time, and I don't film that. But I break down great email designs with friends from the email industry. So before we get into it, I'd love for you all to engage in a thought experiment. Let's say we're all cavemen, or you're a caveman or woman. You're a very entrepreneurial early person, and you've invented something called the bow. It's really great. You don't have to run it so much. You can target things which are far away. But before, all people had were like sticks, stones, maybe spears, which are longer versions of sticks. And and it's very difficult to explain why people should learn a whole new skill to start hunting. And so I'd love for you guys to kind of imagine how you try to explain why a bow is so good to the rest of the tribe. As you can see here, someone is being heckled. So, okay, we're going to get into the story, the mystery. In this case, I'm going to talk about the client, which was my ex-employer. So I used to work for a company called Filtered. And this is the official line. So Filtered is a learning tech company that helps organizations get the best return on their L&D spend. Exactly. You're yawning. You can probably notice that this tells you absolutely nothing about what Filtered do or how they do it. So not very helpful. So for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to give you some context because it's going to be important for this presentation. So the context, enterprise organizations of about maybe like 5,000, 10,000 employees or more, they have hundreds and thousands of learning assets from various suppliers. So it could be LinkedIn Learning, could be Udemy, it could be Coursera, all sorts of things. So yeah, they hoard and sit on a huge library of a bunch of learning assets. And the problem is, like, if you have 100,000 of anything, it's very easy to lose track of. Like, even if it's your favorite thing in the world, you know, if you had 100,000 cats, just imagine, that is just pure chaos. So what would happen is like content overlap. So you would have learning assets that would often be covering the same subjects. You'd often have employees who are just too overwhelmed and they'll be like, I'll just go to Google, thank you. You would have money wasted. And this was a big problem. So how Filtered help was that they would automate tagging of these learning assets so that people could find them easier in the libraries. And they could also curate these assets all with AI. That's essentially it. So the so what was that it saved learning and development budget because learning and development is not a sexy part of the business. It usually gets cut when it comes to the crunch. It enabled better vendor-client matches, so it was able to match up clients with the content that they wanted. And it made L&D look like rock stars, which is probably the most important thing. So the mystery. Now, we had a unique, game-changing product. We had a leader in a brand new category. We had excellent use cases, industry influencers, and our customers loved it. So it should be a no-brainer, right? It should market itself. And you can see this company will mean absolutely nothing to you, but Josh Burson is a big name in the HR kind of talent development field, and they wrote all about content intelligence, which was what Filtered was. So the problem with new product categories is that regular growth channels don't work. For one thing, people weren't actively looking for a product, much like, the entrepreneurial caveman. They're trying to explain the bow to people who are only looking for sticks or spears. And they weren't looking for a product category, which was content intelligence. So we tried to be creative, I guess. So we tried to look at maybe keyword research and data. And it showed us that people gravitated towards content curation. So we were like, okay, yeah, we'll go with content creation. That sounds good to us. So we that became the linchpin of our marketing strategy, content curation for L&D. Is anyone here familiar with the metaphor of the boiling frog? You. It's a bit dark. I don't know if anyone's actually done this, but I promise you I haven't. So the metaphor of the boiling frog. Okay, so it goes that if you drop a frog into a pan of boiling water, its survival instincts will kick in and it'll try to get itself out. But if you leave a frog in the pan of water and slowly turn the heat up, it won't know it's being boiled alive. And that's what was happening to me. Most likely the marketing department at my company, which was me. And what was happening was we were trying to kind of go through the hamster wheel and put out all of this content about content creation for L&D. And on the face of it, yeah, it was working great because the data showed us that people were interested in content curation. We tried to do things all the normal way. But what was happening was we kind of looked up and we were in a boiling pan. And okay, a moment of vulnerability here. I guess I'm in a safe space. So we organized an in-person event all about content creation for L&D, and it was great. People were excited about it. We had 60 plus people attend, all within our ICP. Come the day, 3 hours later after the event starts, only one person attended. Ouch. Sorry? Live in-person event. Yeah, ouchies. So upon reflection, we just realized that what we were writing about and creating content about just wasn't compelling enough for people. It just wasn't different enough. It wasn't speaking to them. We weren't speaking our audience's language. So, okay, case closed, right? Yeah, we done it. Great. No, not even close. So there's so much more work to be done. So, like a lot of detective stories, or a good one at least, it opens up into even more mystery, more questions to be answered. How do we communicate what our product does? How the heck do we do this? So I grew up with Harry Potter. I was the right age for it. And I really resonated with Hermione Granger. So obviously I went to the library. I say library, I mean I ordered a lot of books off Amazon. So I read books about positioning. So this is the seminal work the classic work, and then you have April Dunford's work, which builds upon that. You have work about the super consumers, which talks about your most loyal, your raving fans. We have Niche Down, which is work about a book about how companies have found success in really drilling into what makes them special and what makes them unique. We have category design as well, because we were a brand new product category. And finally, I read Anne Handley's book, because it's a great book about copywriting, sure, but good writing is about writing logically and writing in sequence and writing from a really good place. So the solution was interrogate everybody in the form of a workshop. So I didn't shine a light in anybody's face or anything, so nothing drastic, nothing dramatic. But I knew that we needed a workshop, and the template for the workshop is available at the end. So what was this workshop for? So it was to clarify our positioning and create strong messaging off the back of the positioning. Who did I do it with? Well, I did it with the CEO, the CMO, the head of marketing, me, and my direct report, which is the marketing executive. It was a 3-hour-long workshop, and yes, did I twist some arms for this to happen? Yeah, absolutely. It happened in person on a rainy day in Shoreditch, I remember, using a digital whiteboard. I think we used Miro. And why? Well, we needed to communicate the essence of what Filter did before it was too late, because we're a startup. We couldn't afford to be wasting resources again and again and again. So before we did the workshop, it was really important to get people on the same page. So we needed to get some pre-work done. So we used a solution called Gong. Does anyone use Gong? Yeah, it's great. So it records customer calls, and I created a few that were important for the workshop to happen. I shared key concepts. So I shared a primer on positioning, and I shared a primer on super consumers, just a few things just to make sure that everyone was clear on terminology. And I shared a few case studies of why, positioning was really important, and some good case studies, essentially. So the workshop structure. Overall, I think there were 3 main themes, which was the past, understanding how we got here, the present, taking stock of the industry and our role in it, and the future, making educated guesses about the industry and how to stay relevant, and how do we still stay there. And I held this workshop multiple times with different representatives across the company. So there were 4 main sections in the workshop, and you'll see this in the template. So firstly, about us. How do we get here? What is our history? What is our niche? It might seem obvious to ask these questions, but actually, when you start asking these questions to different people within the company, you're going to get different answers, and that's really interesting. About our customers. So who are our super consumers? Who are our raving fans? What do they look like? What do they think we're missing? And I think the most important question is, who do we not want to serve? Because we're constantly talking about who are the people we want to help, who are the people we don't want to help, because that helps solidify your offering even more. Distilling the positioning. So I think a question that made people stop and think was, if our product or service didn't exist, what would customers use? And in our case, because we're a brand new product category, a lot of the time the answer was nothing, or an Excel sheet. And what do we have that alternatives don't? For us, again, new product, so we didn't have alternatives, but in a lot of cases, it brought up a lot of interesting conversations about what were people doing instead. So next steps, how do we powerfully communicate our point of view, our POV? And how do we find more super consumers? And again, this was really interesting to ask people. So you see, there's a whole load of words here, but in a nutshell, these were the answers from different people in the company when I asked them, what problem are we trying to solve? And you'll see, dumb content, data messiness, content dumping. So all sorts of different words from different people. But what I realized was, as a team, we were saying the same things in different ways. We didn't land on something right away, classic, right? So we had data disorganization, content crunch, content crisis, data deluge. So you'll notice that we had alliteration, which is where you have the same sound at the beginning of the word. And that was really important because we wanted it to be sticky. But we needed to validate what we'd found with the most important people, which are our customers. So we actually gathered up a few of our super consumers, and actually some treasured partners or industry influencers, and we actually asked them their opinion about what we'd found. Eventually, we got to content chaos. Content chaos was very evocative, like it brought out feelings in people, because even if you didn't know what Filter did, whenever our customers heard content chaos, they were like, I feel that, I know that feeling. So it was perfect because it didn't seem impossible to solve, right? Because the problem with a term like content crisis was like, well, it's over, let's give up. And not too vague, like content crunch, which sounds like a cereal. So chaos can be solved. And like this problematic guy, any Game of Thrones fans in here? So yeah, so he said chaos is a ladder. And in some cases, some people find chaos to be really useful to get ahead. So the outcome was that we were able to talk about a proposition with more confidence. So what did that really mean? So as you noticed at the beginning of the presentation, it took me like 5 minutes to explain what Filtered did. But by the end of this process, the team were more aligned on saying that Filtered are a company that helps tackle content chaos in enterprise organizations. Prospects were able to feel the problem as well, so we immediately had a connection with people in that way. And it opened new doors in a content strategy. So you can see these are some of the pieces that we wrote about. Content chaos is L&D's biggest opportunity. You guys are like, wow, stunning. I can't wait to read that. The 9.1 billion cost of content chaos, that's a bit sexier. And 6 tips to help solve L&D content chaos. So all very helpful stuff. And we knew we were onto something when prospects and other organizations started using content chaos too. Without prompting, we didn't slide anyone like some money to do this. This was genuinely something that started happening. So L&D must resolve content chaos to meet performance goals. Thriving amid content chaos. So who can use this method or who can use this workshop? Well, genuinely, I think every company that's been doing or just feeling like they've been in a hamster wheel for a while could definitely use it. But listen to your customers and listen to your team. And if they don't sound confident about telling you what it is that your product does, what your company does, if they don't feel aligned, then I think it's a great sign that you do need to use this workshop. But at the end of the day, don't become the boiled frog. So yeah, thank you. That brings me to the end of my presentation. You can download the workshop template here, so feel free to take a picture. And yeah, open to any questions. Any questions at all? No? We're all feeling like we want dinner. We're thinking about the open bar. Oh yeah.
I'll do it.
All right, sure.
Okay, so you came up with saving content chaos.
Yes.
After the workshop.
Yeah.
And how did that perform? Like, yeah, what was it? Did you land with the right people with that kind of positioning or statement?
Yes, so we were finding that our ICP, when we were having customer calls with them on Gong, when we were looking over the data, was that they were saying it back at us and we were talking to the right people because people were saying to each other, hey, like this company is talking all about this thing called content chaos. And we felt that people were referring us and saying, you need to hear about this content chaos thing. I think especially after that thought leadership where we actually put a tangible number next to it because we did a lot of research about how much it was potentially costing enterprise organizations. Hey.
So when you talk to your customers, you use any qualitative research method, or it was more like talking in general?
I mean, yeah. So we made sure that we were very deliberate in how we talk to the customers. So yeah, it was qualitative. Like we tried to make sure that so we had everything on Gong, and we always presented the information like, what do you think of this? But it was always the same thing every time. But there was also a certain element of like, we wanted to talk to industry influencers that we were close with and validate that as well. And that was very much like casual conversations. Any other questions? Okay, we're ready for the open bar. All right, thank you, everyone.